What's going on? This is Cody, and you are tuned to B-Boy 45, broadcasting from the Seacrest Studios. It is another special edition of the latest news to keep you in the groove with Maya. Maya, why is this a special edition?
Because Ben Shenkman is calling in.
Oh my gosh, Ben
Shenkman! Before.
Yeah. We are so excited to have you, Ben. Welcome to Children's Hospital, Colorado. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, excellent. Well, Maya, take it away, girl.
Okay. So who or what inspired you to start acting?
To start acting, well, when I was pretty young, like in grade school, first grade, I think, I remember seeing kids walking in the hall and they had swords. Like little, like classical, they call them rapiers. They have a little cuff, like a Three Musketeer sword. And I thought, wow, why do these kids get to have these cool swords? And the answer was, oh, they're doing Shakespeare. And I didn't know that Shakespeare was a writer or that what he wrote were plays, but I was intrigued by the fact that, you know, they got to play with swords. And later that year, I got to see some of the plays that students were doing, and it just looked amazingly exciting. And what I realized recently, that I can remember almost all of the details and even the casting and some of the songs of plays that I saw done, you know, one time by other kids in school when I was growing up, going all the way through grade school. So I was really, like, I don't know, just captivated and was paying attention to it from that very early age. And then that turned into doing plays at school and connecting, you know, the idea of being an actor to, you know, the people that I was seeing on TV playing heroes that I, you know, loved. So that all just kind of blended together as one thing, and just led to my continuing to do acting in school and then in college. And then I was able to go to grad school after college. So I was able to just keep pursuing the interest with the dream sort of maybe being able to devote my life to it. And that's more or less what happened.
Oh, cool. So you were in the movie Breakfast with Scott with Tom Cavanaugh.
Yeah, have you seen that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's so good. I love that movie.
Well, it's one of my favorite projects that I've done, but it was not widely seen. But I just love hearing that you saw it and loved it, because I really love it too. Thank
you. Yeah. If I could, I would watch it every day if I could. So
that's so great.
Yeah. So what drew you to that project?
Okay, so you mentioned Tom Cavanaugh. I had met Tom Cavanaugh. Did you ever see Tom's show Ed when it was on? This is quite a while, like maybe 20 years ago.
I saw a couple episodes. I know my mom saw it, but we couldn't find it anywhere. So we could only find a couple episodes.
Well, Tom did that for a few years, 4 or 5 years, I think, and he was great, and he was nominated for an Emmy for it at the time, and it was shot in New Jersey, near New York, where I've always lived, and so I was like a guest actor on the show, and a couple of times, and I met him, and then a good friend of mine produced another show that he did a few years after that, maybe 4 or 5 years after that, called Love Monkey. That was on CBS, and I guested on that show and got to know him better. And so then this movie came along not too long after that, and he was the lead of it, and he was helping develop the script with the producers, and he thought of me to play his boyfriend, husband, partner. I can't remember if they're actually married. I guess they're not maybe married. And are they married? I can't remember if they're actually married. But anyway, he thought of me to be his partner in the movie and told me about it. And then I knew him well enough and liked his taste well enough that was enough for me, that he was saying, hey, this is good, and it would be fun for us to do this together if you're interested. And so I just went and did it.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So do you have any fun stories or memories from filming?
From that one?
Yeah.
Let's see. I think, one real fun thing about it was that I'd never been to Toronto, and it was filmed in Toronto. And so I went and lived in Toronto for the whole time that it was being made. And I think I was the only American actor in it. It was basically a Canadian production. And so the crew was just a very tight-knit group of people. It was like going to camp. I mean, that is sometimes the way movies are anyway, no matter even when you're shooting close to home, just because you're working every day. But I remember the fun of going to a new city, living there, and just the kind of camaraderie and fun that we had among the people who were acting in the movie and shooting the movie. And I also remember the boy who played Scott, he's now a man. I haven't seen him since then. This is now, 14 years ago. And I remember what a great and talented kid he was and how much fun he was to shoot that movie with. And the three of us, Tom and me and Noah Burnett was his name, just formed a kind of did a lot of kidding around and joking and imitations and things like that. And I just remember the mood on the set was very light and good.
Oh, cool. So you're on the hit Showtime show Billions. How did that opportunity come about?
Well, actually, I'm thinking now that you're asking me that it's a little bit similar to the other one. It came from working with those same people on another project. Or actually, the creators and writers of that show, Brian Koppelman and David Levine, they had been putting together a TV show quite a bit before that. Maybe, when was it? It must have been in like 2003 or 4. And they had been interested in me for a part, but it didn't work out then. But then they remembered me, and I got to be a little bit friendly with them. And a few years later, they made a movie, and I played a small part in that. And so, and I remember talking to them a little bit about when they got Billions together. They were thinking of hiring people that worked on Royal Pains from the crew, and so I remember talking to them a little bit about it. So anyway, by the time that show was up and running, they were kind of friends of mine, and were looking for something for me to do in that show. And so when the part of Ira came up, it seemed perfect. And I'm actually glad that it worked out then, because I think they had been interested in maybe casting me in a different role earlier in that first season, but I wasn't available then. And so when I became available, it kind of perfectly lined up with the Ira character, and the Ira character just turned into such a great part to play in that world.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so you've been in so many different things. Have you had a favorite project or character you've played?
I don't think I have one single one, but I love playing Ira, and you mentioned Breakfast with Scott, and when we emailed, I remember you talking about Royal Pains, Jeremiah, and that show. That character is certainly one of my favorite characters that I've gotten to play. And I don't know. It's hard to pick one. But I like that they have been different, and each one stands out. Or many of them stand out, and that makes them special.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so you played Jeremiah in Royal Pains. So could my family, we've actually been rewatching Royal Pains, and I'm like obsessing over it all over again. So could you relate to Jeremiah in any way?
Yeah, I could actually. Although I didn't. Well, what was a little bit unusual about that was that when I came on, I just thought I would be playing that character, one or two or maybe three times. And then it just kept going. And then it became like a regular character on the show. And so all the different parts of that person that I got to play, I never would have imagined when I first got the part. And I did find that that even though I didn't have, his particular background or his history or his like emotional challenges, he's sort of on the spectrum, that I just found myself always able to kind of relate to where he was coming from. But I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why. I think part of it had to do with I think part of it had to do with, oh, sorry, I can't talk now, honey. Yeah, I don't know where it is. Sorry.
It's okay.
That was my son looking for his phone. I think part of it had to do with the idea of him feeling like he was a little bit misunderstood a little bit, that he was someone who people thought was kind of serious and kind of stiff on the outside. And he did have some of those qualities, but inside he had a lot of kind of warmth and depth of feeling for the people around him. And I think that's just kind of a human thing that I think that often people feel like the most vulnerable and available and warmest and most loving part of them, like needs a little bit of help to feel safe to come out and express themselves to other people. So even though I didn't have that to the same degree as Jeremiah, I think playing a character for whom that was such an important part of his story touched something in me. And it was not like any other characters that I played.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So did you have a favorite episode to film?
Of that show?
Yeah.
There were a few favorite episodes. There was one that, I know that you interviewed Paulo Costanzo, right, who played Evan?
Yeah.
So he directed a couple of shows, especially in the later seasons. And I think the first episode he directed was one that featured Jeremiah a lot. And it was one where Jeremiah had to kind of keep tabs on a huge pop star who was having some health issues. And she took a liking to him and wanted him to follow her, in doing all her activities to make sure that she was all right. And she winds up bringing him to this nightclub. Do you remember that episode at all?
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I love that episode.
Yeah. So that was one of my favorites because the combination of having Paulo, who felt like an equal and a friend on the show, in the director's role, that really felt like, like the kids were loose in the candy shop and we could do whatever we wanted and the grownups had gone away. That was fun. And then the actual content of the episode was just so great because it was almost like a little short film just about Jeremiah going into this, the situation that would make him the most uncomfortable. And then he kind of performs heroically in it. And so that's an episode that I remember loving a lot. And then I liked some of the ones that were more emotionally intense that had to do with Divya and Viviana and, some of his romantic feelings and his deeper emotional life. And that was just great to get into from a character that looked so kind of narrow emotionally from the beginning.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah. I was actually telling a friend about that. I was interviewing you and I was like, there are not a ton of characters on TV that I can relate to, but I can relate to Jeremiah. So I
just love hearing that. Thank you for saying that. And the people that do relate to Jeremiah, they have that same strong feeling about him, I think. It was such a rewarding thing for me to experience as an actor, which I really had not done before. I'd never had a chance to play a character for a long time on a TV show where the audience really, gets to know the character and think of them like family, all of the characters, and to be part of that and to have people feel that kind of special emotional connection to a person. It just makes the character feel very real, even though it's out of your imagination. But people relate to the character as if he's real, and I relate to him as if he's real, and it just breathes life into the whole thing. It's a really special experience to have as an actor.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So you were on Broadway in Larry David's Fish in the Dark. What was the best part about being on Broadway and being a part of this show?
Well, a couple of things were great. That's the first time I'd been on Broadway, or it's the first time I'd been in a play in New York for many years. And before I was doing some of the TV things and movies that you had talked about, I'd been doing mainly theater in New York, not always on Broadway, sometimes off Broadway and sometimes on Broadway. But so when I got to be in that play, I think it was the first time in 8 or 9 years that I'd gone back to doing a play after all that time. And that was just such a fantastic feeling, because of course the theater is, how I, as I was saying before, how I originally fell in love with acting and all my training, and much of the first years of working professionally as an actor were in the theater. So it was like, to come home to that was great. And then there was a particular thing about Larry and his writing and his audience that just ate it up in a way that it was a full-on comedy. That was another first for me to do. And I'd done plays that had humor in them, but to do something that was just a laugh machine the way that play was, for an audience that was so primed for the whole thing, it was like a party on stage every night. And I wound up doing it for, I think, maybe 6 months or something, like quite a long time. And it didn't feel arduous at all. It was just a pleasure to go to the theater and do that every night. And it was a huge cast. There was almost 20 people in the cast, and everyone just had a blast. So it did kind of spoil me a little bit. Usually plays are a little more of a mixed bag between, being afraid or working hard and getting certain satisfactions and getting certain frustrations. And this was just all fun.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Over quarantine, it's given me a chance to become obsessed with all these Broadway soundtracks. So I drive my mom and my sister a little bit crazy because they're always on now. So
do you sing along, or do you just listen to them?
Well, I can't sing, but that doesn't stop people. Yeah. So I wouldn't do it in public, but it doesn't stop me at home. So
right, yes, in the proverbial shower.
Yeah.
What are your what are your big favorites? What are the ones you're obsessed with?
Well, my favorites are Spring Awakening and First Date. And then I also love Rent and Hamilton and Dear Evan Hansen and Waitress, and so.
I haven't seen and don't know a lot of current Broadway scores, although of course I have Hamilton, but Spring Awakening is one that I love. Duncan Sheik was in college at the same time that I was, and I remember hearing some of his early music. I happened to be in a music composition class. He probably wouldn't even remember me, but I remembered him because the demo tapes that he brought in, even then, as a college student, were like astounding. I just remember thinking, oh my God, this guy can already basically make a record all by himself. It's so good.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. So do you have any pre-audition rituals?
You mean like things that don't have to do with the audition itself, that are just sort of like for good luck or something like that?
Yeah.
I don't think I do. I mean, I have the way I get ready for auditions, but that's not, I don't think that's very, it's not, I wouldn't say it's ritualistic. It's just kind of practical. I've always learned my lines by making a recording of all the other lines in the scene other than mine, and carefully spacing it out so that I can rehearse with the other other lines coming back at me and listening to them. But I don't think that's that unusual. A lot of actors do that, but I've done that, as long as I've auditioned. It's hard for me to prepare for an audition by reading and just speaking aloud my side, but I have to see what it's like to hear what the other characters say, to literally hear them, not just read it.
Oh, cool.
even though it's my own voice, and then I forget it's my own voice. I mean, once it's on tape and I'm just listening to it, then I'm very easily able to imagine that it isn't me. And I even do that when I tape an audition. You know, most auditions now for TV and things like that are done with self-taping now, and that's the way I do that too. It's my voice on a speaker, and I've carefully edited it so that the timing works with the performance I'm recording. So it's me acting with myself.
Cool. Yeah. I actually took an acting class at my school a couple years ago, and it didn't go well. I think it's so.
How do you know?
What?
Why do you say that?
Because I couldn't memorize any of my lines, and like my teacher had suggested doing like recording it and listening back to it. I tried that; it didn't help.
That's recording your own lines to memorize them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just he just let me have the monologue or whatever it was just with me. He let me just read from it.
Yes. Yes.
Which was nice because I could not memorize any of my lines.
But he was absolutely right, because you can do a lot of acting without memorizing the lines. And in fact, one of my favorite things now, and the older I get, the more I value it, is to read something cold with no preparation and not even having read it before. When you do a TV show, usually when the next episode is first written, the first thing you do is they assemble the cast and they have a table read where everyone reads the script aloud for the first time. Now, different shows do it differently in terms of how far in advance they give you that script before you show up. But some shows don't give it to you until you are right there, because it literally hasn't been finished up until that point, or maybe you'll have it hours ahead of time. But there is something about reading the script with absolute, let alone memorization, literally not knowing what is coming next. You sometimes are able to get things that you never get again, or that you are chasing. You're trying to rediscover the impulses that were hitting you when you were getting the story totally cold. So, I wouldn't necessarily assume that because you didn't memorize the lines in that class that it didn't go well. It might have gone great. Because the more I experience it, the more I see how difficult it can be when you have memorized lines to then go back and infuse it with the absolutely easy, spontaneous things that can come when it isn't on the rails yet. Yeah.
Oh, cool. So is there a show that you're currently binge watching?
Watching a couple of shows. There's one called The Bureau, which is a French-made show about a spy, about a espionage and intelligence cell in France that is riveting. We just got done with. Oh wait, now I'm blanking. What did we just get done with? Well, I guess this isn't a scripted show, but we just watched this show about the Golden State Killer on HBO called I'll Be Gone in the Dark, which was made by an incredible documentary filmmaker, Liz Garbus, which was amazing. And that we were just hanging on the edge of our seats. I say we, that's my wife and I. But in terms of multiple seasons of a scripted show, I think it's been a while since we found one that really hooked us.
We've been over quarantine. We've been binge watching a lot of shows and watching a lot of movies. The world really isn't quarantining anymore, but we still are. So we're still, so we're watching Royal Pains, and my mom and I just finished watching Frasier. And Yeah, and then my sister and our mom and I are watching a Netflix show called Emily in Paris.
Oh, I don't know that one at all.
It's a new one, and it's with Lily Collins and.
Oh, right. From Downton Abbey, right? Lily Collins, is that who that is? Was she in Downton Abbey? English, right? English.
I never saw that, so I don't know if she's in that, but.
I hope I have that right.
So yeah, we've been watching that and Royal Pains, and then I've been rewatching every season of The Flash.
Tom Cavanaugh.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just have a couple more questions for you.
Oh, sure. Whatever.
So what personality trait has gotten you in the most trouble?
Procrastination.
Yeah, I try not to do that, but that happens to me sometimes. I'm just like, oh, I'll do it later. And
Yes,
then,
you'll stop procrastinating tomorrow.
Yeah. So, have you discovered any new hobbies or talents during quarantine?
I have not discovered any new talents. I wish. Let's see. Well, I've always messed around with music and stuff, and so I played in bands and stuff in college, and then since then I've just tinkered with recording songs on my own, and it can be a very long and painstaking and obsessive process, and I've definitely gotten deeper into that during the quarantine.
Cool. Yeah. So is there a line from a book or a movie that's had a big impact on your life?
God, what a great question. A line. Well, I mean, the thing that comes to mind actually is not so much like a line where the content of the line then becomes like, an inspiration or words of wisdom that you live by. But the role of famous lines in movies and the way they are said has had a really big part in my life, because it's in, the way my good friends and I, especially in college, many of whom have become actors, the way we were getting inspired to go do this had a lot to do with watching our favorite movies over and over again and finding certain lines and the way they were said by the actors that we revered captivating. Like, it became like a shorthand. It became like how we talk to each other. Even still, we refer to famous lines, that Al Pacino says in The Godfather, A Dog Day Afternoon, or Dustin Hoffman says in Tootsie, or Kramer versus Kramer, or, these classic performances and classic movies performed by, brilliant actors and stamped with their idiosyncratic personality was kind of like the touchstone. It was like the thing that got me and my good friends into the dream of doing it. And it was the way we were consuming it as an audience. So that's a little bit different than like having one famous line that's kind of had a particular significance to your life. But there have been many, many, many great lines in great films. And the way they were said, that you sing over and over like songs, as a way of appreciating those movies and appreciating those performances and wondering kind of about the mystery of what makes what a great actor does special and enduring. So all that's in the lines and then how they're said.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So if you could have any song playing to announce your entrance into a room, what song would it be?
Oh, what a great question. Well, because it has to be like this, it has to be the song hears as you're coming in. Let's see. Well, this is a funny one, but I'm going to say "Sweet Emotion" by Aerosmith. Do you know how that song starts?
No.
It starts with this very recognizable, ominous bass line. Have you ever seen Dazed and Confused, the Richard Linklater movie about the last day of high school in 1976 at this big high school?
Oh no, that's on our list of movies to watch.
It's a great movie, and it starts with that song, "Sweet Emotion." Now, for me, it would be almost a comically inappropriate song to be playing for me to walk into a room, because it's kind of like a swaggering rock song. But the idea of that song playing before I walk into a room definitely tickles me. So I'm going to choose that one.
Oh, cool. Is Dazed and Confused with Adam Goldberg?
Yes. I think it was his first big role, and it was like, who is that guy? He's amazing. Oh,
okay. Yeah, because I remember I put that in our list. So it's I have a feeling from the stuff that you've talked about being obsessed with that you would absolutely love that movie. It's great. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to tell my mom and my sister before we watch anything else, we have to watch Dazed and Confused.
Right. I think it's R-rated, but that doesn't sound like a problem for you, right? Is that an issue? No. Okay.
No, I mean, we watch everything with our mom, so.
Yeah. She'll love it too, I'm sure.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I will let them know. So my last question for you is, who do you consider to be a real life superhero and why?
Wow, real life superhero. Kind of the obvious superheroes, of recent history are the civil rights heroes, John Lewis and before him, Dr. King, because, because they were fighting injustice and they were fighting evil. And they won, although obviously with enormous personal sacrifice. So, and also because they looked so good doing it. This is part of, there are a lot of unsung superheroes who accomplish a lot of good, but kind of the superhero thing is a little bit about kind of the profile that you cut while you're doing that. And Obama, I feel that way about, he's combination of a force for good in the world, but also whose just grace and personal style is inspiring and captures your imagination. And then there are artists, among actors, I have a lot of superheroes. Someone like Meryl Streep is a superhero. She's elevated, the art of acting to what looks like a superpower. And musicians and, McCartney comes to mind, the Beatles as a whole, obviously, but him in particular, I think because of how kind of sunny and open he seems to have been able to live his life through all that. So I guess I have many. And Henry Winkler comes to mind. Henry Winkler, who played the Fonz, who was like a superhero character on TV when I was a kid, and then whom I got to know as a real person, and who is like an amazingly warm and open and generous and loving person in real life. So I don't know. Those are just some of the names that come to mind.
Oh, cool. I love Henry Winkler. And I definitely agree with all of those. And I have so many too, I have two that come to mind right away.
Who are the two?
My mom and my sister.
Oh, great.
My sister and I actually, so she has been going to school this year and I'm just doing everything from home. But I actually, we had lunch together today at school, just outside. Mm-hmm. And then we were just walking around saying hi to all the security guards at school. Cause they're the people I talked to the most last year. So yeah, we went around just saying hi to all of them. And,
Is your sister older or younger?
okay, so we're twins, but she's
Oh.
older by 3 minutes.
By minutes. Oh my God.
Yeah. And she always
are you identical twins or fraternal twins?
fraternal twins. Yeah. So if she was here, my mom went to go pick her up from school. If she was here, I'd bring her up. But
All right. Well, tell her I said hi. I'm sorry I missed her.
I will. Well, thank you so much for calling in. I had the best time talking to you. This made my whole week.
Oh, thank you. It was such a pleasure, and it was so flattering with all the actors that you've talked to that you would, invite me to do it. And it's absolutely my pleasure. And it's been great to meet you and talk to you. Thank you, Maya.
Thank you. I hope one day I'll be able to meet you in person.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Well, Ben, thank you so much for spending so much time with Maya, with her show, The Latest News to Keep You in the Groove, and with us here at Children's Hospital Colorado. We appreciate it, and we hope you have a great day.
You too. Bye,
Okay.
everybody.
We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.